I'm rarely at a loss for words. Sitting in the room with the family, we're all at a loss for words. Sometimes we just sing Tehillim, Psalms from 3,000 years ago, hoping they bring us some comfort. This is the 23rd. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Ro'i, Lo Echsar, Binodeh Sheyarbitzeni, Al mei menuchot Yenaleni. Nafshi yeshoeh yancheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo kama ki elech begetz al mavet la irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishanetecha heima yenachamuni taroch levanai shulchan neged sorai tishan tavashem en roshi kosir vaya achtav v'chesed yidefuni kol yemei chayai v'shaveti beveit Adonai leorech yamim.
Cantor Goldstein recited Psalm 23, which reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green pastures, leading me beside still waters, restoring my soul, guiding my path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever." Alan, Lisa, no one can know what you are going through right now, but you know that I understand perhaps a little more than most. The psalmist speaks of the valley of the shadow of death, and indeed, it is a dark and narrow passage. But you should know by the presence of those of us here and many more that we are here to walk this path with you, to accompany you in the days and years ahead. Your pain will never cease, but life and light are strong, and so are you and your family, and you can survive. And we will be here with you throughout in any way that we can support you.
Kirachem av al banim, richem Adonai al yirei av, ki hu yada yitzreinu zachor ki afar anachnu, enosh kechatzir yamav ketzitza sadeh, ken yatzitz ki ruach avrabo ve'enenu velo yakirenu od mekomo, v'chesed Adonai me'olam ve'ad olam al yirei av, v'tzidkato livnei vanim. As a father has compassion for his children, Adonai has compassion for those who show reverence. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are dust. The days of mortals are like grass. We flourish as the flowers of the field. A wind passes over them, and they are no more, and no one can recognize where they grew. But Adonai's compassion is everlasting. God's kindness to children's children, to all the reverent ones, endures age after age, unchanging. We read in Ecclesiastes that there is a season set for everything, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for seeking and a time for losing. What makes the presence and the present here so hard is that now is not a time for dying. David was taken from us as a young man. That's wrong. It's tragic. Our hearts are breaking. David fell. It was an accident. It should not have happened. And how can these things happen? In the wisdom of Solomon, we read, "A good person, though taken from us too soon, will rest in peace. For honor in old age does not come from length of life. Honor in old age does not come from length of years. Understanding is the gray hair of humanity. A blameless life is ripeness of age. Perfection in limited years is like living for many years. So a good person, though taken from us too soon, will rest in peace." I have no words for this that can comfort you. No words. Our presence is all we can give you. We'll stand with you. We'll love you. We are always nearby, and that is what we can do. David Schreiber was a good guy, a special person with close relationships with his family. His loving parents, Lisa and Alan, his younger sisters, whom he adored, Jillian and Ariel, and their husbands, Ronnie and Tom, grandparents, Ketzi and Budsy Klausner, Edith and Sidney Schreiber, of blessed memories, aunts and uncles. David was always in the center of family gatherings. He truly loved being with all of them, and that love, of course, was reciprocated. He was admired. He was a lot of fun, especially on the ball field. When he was present, he lifted people up. That's saying a lot. He will be remembered for that. He will be deeply missed for that. David was born here in Denver, October 25th, 1985. He was Lisa and Alan's oldest child, and he looked after his sisters, Lillian and Ariel. He would do anything for them. He was a good student all through the years, graduated Cherry Creek High School, continuing on to the University of Arizona in Tucson, graduating with a BA in English. He went on to DU, receiving an MBA in business from the prestigious Daniel School. In high school, as you all know, David shined in baseball, making the varsity team there, which is an enormously competitive high-level team. He went on earning a position in the Junior Olympics in baseball. He loved everything in sports, which he shared with his father and grandfather. Alan was the Rockies' doctor, and that gave David access to the star professional players. He received his first mitt from the Rockies. practice on the spring training field with them, and hung out with the players. From that would come his passion for baseball and his considerable success there. In a Jewish community, he was known as a softball player in the synagogue league for the HEA Hebrews. Many of his teammates are here now today. My son Shai was on that team and was very fond of David, a valued player on the field, a good friend in the dugout and beyond. He was very proud of his Jewish heritage. He had his bar mitzvah on this bima. He wore a mezuzah on a chain around his neck. He rejoiced in the holidays and on Shabbat with his grandparents. When his sisters found anti-Semitic postings online, David was there to put up an aggressive response. First, no one messed with his sisters. And second, he would defend his heritage and people to the hilt. David worked in Allen's practice. He was the office manager, filed the insurance claims, and took care of the practice's computer and medical software and records. He worked with his father for 7 years. Allen said to me on Tuesday that David was his best friend. David was a sensitive soul. He was strong, he was a gifted thinker, and he was intuitive. That served him well in school and among his family and friends. He was very sensitive to his grandparents' needs as they grew older and came to the end of their lives. David always wanted to be a good person and to do the right thing, and he accomplished both of them. He was a good soul. He was a good guy with a ready smile. There's a lot more to be said about David's qualities and the positive impact he had on so many lives. We will hear from members of his family now as I call them up. I'd like to first call upon David's sister Jillian, and then followed by his brother-in-law Tom.
Thank you to all of our friends and family, and to those who traveled here from out of town, and to my husband, Rodney Nazar. For being here. I am Jillian, and David is my older brother. Okay. Today is a day that none of us ever thought would come, and I would like to speak about my brother David, to celebrate his life. And the wonderful person he was. David was 2 years older than me, and David, my sister, and I were very close. My sister's Ariel, and we grew up in a loving family with loving parents and extended family. David loved his family above all else. His happiest moments were when we were all together, whether it was making breakfast on the weekends or at the holidays with my grandparents, Ketsi and Butsy, my aunts and uncles and my cousins. David loved his grandparents, Ketsi and Butsy, my grandfather Butsy was such a good person, and David loved him and wanted to be like him. They had a very close bond, and they both loved baseball, which my Papa Butsy played his whole life, and so did my brother. One of the most important things to David was to sit with my Papa Butsy at the high holidays at synagogue, and he looked forward to that every year. David loved the holidays with our family, and he and my dad always went to buy fireworks for 4th of July, and he loved to light them, and he would stand too close. But he really liked to do that. David was an excellent athlete. He was the kind of athlete that was good at everything. He taught me how to ski, how to play baseball, and how to focus, and how to be tough. David was a superb baseball and football player. He was especially gifted at baseball. David played left field because he could throw the furthest, and he batted fourth because he was the best hitter on the team. I remember I went to his state championship game in high school where he hit a home run, and he was so happy and proud. David loved to be with his teammates who were his friends, and this was a wonderful time in his life. David loved my sister Ariel and me. He always was watching out for me at school, and everyone knew that I was David's sister. My brother believed that my sister and I were perfect. He really believed that, and he thought that we were so smart and kind and could do anything. And knowing the way that he thought of me really shaped my approach to my entire life. And my brother always thought that I would do the right thing, and so I did. My mom loves David, and David was very close with my mom, and he talked to her every day. And my mom supported David through every aspect of his life. She made sure he was at every practice and that he was comfortable and happy, and was always thinking about David and how he was doing and what was the best for him. She was his biggest fan at all of his games and was so proud of the kind-hearted person that he was. David and my dad spent every day together, and they were truly best friends. And my brother had a very close relationship with my dad. They loved to be together and to watch movies, and my brother wanted nothing more than to be like my dad, and they truly loved each other. David was a gifted student and very intelligent. He graduated from the University of Arizona, and he received his MBA from the Daniels School of Business at DU. He was the business manager at my dad's medical practice, and he helped my dad every day. David was a sensitive, smart, and kind person. David was so friendly to others, and just a good person. He loved my family and my cousins, and I will miss David so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the family, I want to thank you all for coming to commemorate and celebrate David's life. I speak for all of us in saying how much we appreciate your support and your thoughts and prayers. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Thomas Sorsa, and I am David's brother-in-law. David was a lot of things to a lot of people: a friend, a son, a cousin. But to me, first and foremost, he was and will always be a brother. You see, I never had an older brother. I'm the oldest in my family. But even before I married into the family, David acted like a big brother because that's who he is, and that's one of the things he did best. He was everything an older brother should be. He deeply cared for his sisters, he protected them, and of course, he played a few jokes on them. And I have a good example of this. Ariel was telling me that when she was little and they'd go to the Rockies game, David got to go into the locker room while she had to sit outside. But he'd bring in her little autograph book, like you get at Disney World, with him every time and get it signed by the players for her. Or when Jillian was in high school and she couldn't get a date, only later to find out that David had told all of the high school boys they were expressly forbidden from dating his sister. I think growing up with two sisters helped David develop the deep empathy that people always attributed to him. When Ariel was little, she used to sneak into David's room and hide on the top bunk of his bunk bed to spy on him or just to watch him play video games. She went on thinking forever that he never found her. Years later, when she finally told him that she used to do that, he told her he always knew that she was there, but never kicked her out, wanting to let her think that she was sneaky. This devotion and empathy continued past childhood and into David's adult life. I know, at least for me, the scariest thing about meeting Ariel's family for the first time wasn't meeting her dad, which was scary, but meeting David. I knew how tough older brothers can be and how protective he was of his sisters. But, as I'm sure many of you can relate to, David welcomed me into the family with open arms, a handshake, and a smile. He always made me feel welcome, and I couldn't thank him enough for that. One of my fondest memories with David was getting a chance to play backyard football with him right after I had moved out here. Even there, he was a star, like everyone has said. But he made sure that everyone felt included. It didn't matter if you were his youngest cousin or his sister's new boyfriend, but everyone got a chance to catch a pass or throw a ball. And later, I couldn't have been more honored to have David stand up with me the day I married Ariel. He insisted that day on a picture of him helping me tie my bow tie, even though I know for a fact he couldn't tie a bow tie. And when Jillian married Ronnie on their wedding day, we had to do the same picture, even though Ronnie had had his tie tied for 3 hours at that point. He was so excited to be there and so genuinely happy for his sisters. He truly was a great older brother and a role model for how much that can mean. And not only do I consider David a brother, but also a friend. And being his friend, I always delighted in seeing him succeed. One of the proudest moments I ever got to see David was when he graduated with his MBA. He had put in the work and even tolerated listening to me drone on about statistics with him for an entire semester. At his graduation, his hard work and determination had finally paid off. During that time, he got to take an amazing trip to Barcelona and Morocco, where he had a chance to present to business leaders in those communities. He was so excited to share with us the many pictures, fun memories, and souvenirs that he had brought back with him. And, as already has been said, he loved sports, which is something that he and I had a chance to bond over. We would talk about any sport imaginable, and he knew it all. He took the fantasy football league very seriously and looked forward every year to draft day. Whenever we had a Super Bowl party, David was always there and would always bring a plate of food, usually pigs in a blanket. And he always had the best TV and movie recommendations. I always felt like he truly understood Ariel and I, since everything he recommended, we inevitably ended up liking. And as his friend, What I will miss the most were the moments when nothing really happened. Just sitting at the kitchen table watching the game together, or just talking about nothing in particular. It is said that when someone is gone, they never really leave us. And I think that's true. It's in the little reminders and the nudges of memory. The way he'd shake your hand when he said hi, or how he'd walk into a room. The way he cook his steaks the way they do at the good steakhouses, and how much he enjoyed the prime rib we had at every Thanksgiving. He insisted on serving us all at the table this last Thanksgiving, the au jus, to dip our steaks in, and he always took great pride in it. It's those memories and lessons that I know I will hang on to and pass on to my son when he's old enough, so that he knows his Uncle David. He'll know how excited you were to teach him to play baseball when he was old enough, and he couldn't have asked for a better teacher. Rest easy, brother. We miss you.
Thank you for those beautiful words about David and David's impact on your lives. I know that Alan and Lisa want you all to know how deeply grateful they are for you and for all those who have reached out over the past couple of days. I'd also like to announce that the family will be receiving visitors at the Schreibers in Greenwood Village today after the interment till 8 p.m., tomorrow from 4 to 8, with services including Havdalah at 6, and Sunday from 4 to 8 as well, services at 6 o'clock. I'd like to ask everyone please to rise. We'll call the cantor to recite the memorial prayer.
El Male Rachamim Shochein Bameromim Hametzeh Menucha Nechona כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים ודיורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת דוד יוסף בן אברהם וליבה מאיה שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן, אוי בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו אנו בעל הרחמים הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו אדוני הוא נחלתו וינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר אמן.
Ro'eh Yisrael, shepherd of Israel, guide us, your flock with love and compassion. If our grief and desolation we grow distant, do not abandon us, but draw us closer to you. Grant solace and comfort to those who mourn. May they sustain each other with the blessing of memory, the memory of David's life. In the valley of the shadow of death, beside the still waters, and in the green pastures, you, Adonai, are our shepherd. Be our strength, our shield, our guide, and be our comfort throughout all of our days. And let us say, Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of David Schreiber, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our service here at the Hebrew Educational Alliance. We will have burial at Rose Hill Cemetery, where all are invited. In the pamphlets are directions to the cemetery if you'd like to join us. We do not have an escorted procession today. However, we do have a couple of escorts that are going to help the funeral cars, so you're welcome to follow us. Just know if you happen to get caught by a red light, we do have to obey all traffic laws. We'll ask you to please remain in your places at this time as we escort the family and the casket out. If you happen to run into the family in the restroom or the hallway, please allow them the opportunity to do what they need to do and get to their cars. They do need to get to the cemetery to conclude this process. At this time, I'll invite the pallbearers forward.